Thanks again, guys. Drill 3 on the senior fire again. Today's topic we'll be looking at foam gear. So specifically we're going to look at the types of foam that we carry on our particular appliance and the equipment that we actually use to deliver the foam. As we have an old Varley as opposed to Scania, they are slightly different, so we're going to concentrate on the Varley side of things today. Basically I've chosen this topic because it's something we use very infrequently. We don't use it very often at all. I can only count a couple of times where I've had to use it in anger. Have you ever had to use it at all, Dan? Or?
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a daydreaming.
Yeah. Apart from car fires, if you've had foam?
Yeah, can't think of when, but...
Yeah. What about yourself, Shane? How many times do you reckon you've used it? Yeah.
Oh, probably a handful.
Yeah, so it doesn't get used very often. What about yourself, Jeff?
Yeah, a handful.
Only a handful of times.
25.
Yeah. Now, well, as you know, it's a long time between uses. So quite often, I know Dan, I've said this before, every 6 months or so, we're doing our pump checks, and we're just thinking, oh, how does that go again? Sort of. So it's a good topic to sort of refresh on, and especially with recent times, we've had some new foam brought in, some changes have been made. We've got new appliances coming along with CAF systems and things like that. So basically, that's in its entirety. That's why I'm sort of doing this drill today. What I'm going to do is do a quick talk about the types of classes of foam that we carry on our appliance and some of the gear that we have. I've got another little video. It's actually a fire rescue video, so it's only about 7 minutes, nice and short, talking about the new foam that we've got on the truck. Then we're going to go outside. I'll demonstrate how to hook up all the foam equipment, get it running, and then I'll get you guys to demonstrate hooking up the equipment and getting it all operational as well. So we'll actually get up out of the chairs, which I know you're all very excited about. With this particular topic, there are a couple of safety factors beyond the typical stuff. In handling foam, we've got to use the right PPE, so duty wear is fine. Firefighting boots will be good in case there's any spills. You will need to wear gloves, so either the hazmat gloves or some other waterproof gloves. Eye protection, so either your bushfire goggles or a face mask with a wraparound on the sides. And we'll have to stay in a well-ventilated area, so we'll be outside in the drill yard, so I think we should be okay in terms of fumes and things like that. So I'll make sure everybody's getting up okay. If you guys can sort yourselves out when we head outside, that'd be great. Okay, now in terms of foam, the reason we use foam, it's basically there to improve the existing performance of water on various types of fires. It reduces the surface tension, so extinguishing agents can cling and penetrate the fuels more effectively. It reduces the density of water, so it can float on the fuel rather than sort of sink to the bottom of it. It can exclude oxygen, it can suppress vapours, it helps to insulate fuel from heat, therefore decreasing fuel evaporation. It can actually reflect heat, so keep the fuel source from being ignited from radiant heat. It can also help to cool the fuel source. So there are a few different benefits there from using foam. Right, the type of foams that we actually carry on the pump, there's two kinds. There's Class A and Class B. Now our Class A foam is Forexipan S, is what it's called. It comes in the green tub. That's used for solid fuel fires, bushfires, structure fires, things like that. You don't really want to use it on any Class B fires because there's poor vapour suppression, which is one of the big things that we use foam on Class Bs for. So we try to avoid using Class A on Class B fires. But basically the way it works, it contains hydrocarbons and wetting agents and foaming agents. The wetting agents lower the surface tension so that the solution, it's able to spread and adhere to and penetrate the actual fuel more. So it breaks the surface tension of water. So basically allows the water to cling to and penetrate deeper into fuels. The foaming agents that are in there, they trap pockets of air and insulate the fuel from heat and oxygen. So it works in two ways. So you've got the foaming agent, creates the foamy, bubbly type stuff, which has little pockets of air in it, and then the wetting agent penetrates the actual fuel itself, so it makes the water more efficient, more effective. As you can see on the board there, I've got some of the proportions that we would need to use for Class A fuels. The Class A fuel system is used with an inline proportioner on our system, so we can dial in a specific percentage digitally. Now, Class B, our foam that we carry is the new Solberg RF 3x6. So you'll see on the back of the truck now we have the sticker Solberg 3x6. And this is used for Class B or liquid type fires. Now, when it comes to Class B fires, there's basically two types. There's water immiscible and water miscible. Water immiscible do not mix with water. So these are your hydrocarbons like petrol, kerosene, fuel oil, and other non-polar solvents. So basically these don't mix with water, they'll float on the top of water. So that's what we basically call water immiscible. Water miscible basically mix readily with water. So it will dilute and become intermingled with water.
Alcohol and methanol and stuff.
Exactly, you got it, yeah. So they're called like polar solvent type fuels. So yeah, alcohols, ethanols, ketones and ethers. So they're the two types of Class B fires that we will use the Solberg for. Basically the way Class B or the Solberg will work, it creates a foam that spreads over the fuel surface, blanketing and separating the fuel from oxygen. It's sort of self-healing, so if the blanket is actually broken, it will repair itself, preventing reignition and controls the vapours. Because it's a low density foam, it floats and therefore it sits on top of the actual fuel. So rather than sinking to the bottom, as regular water would do for a Class B fire, it'll actually sit on top and basically seal the fuel and block its oxygen supply. Now when it comes to proportioning for the Solberg, we're using eductors, so we don't have a digital proportioner on the actual truck. So we are using the eductors, and that'll be the manual dial. So to start with, for water immiscible, so it doesn't mix with water, we're looking at 3%. And for water miscible, so that's mixed, the chemicals that do mix with water, we're looking at 6%. Now, one good thing with this new type of foam, it can also be used on a Class A fire, and it can be run at 0.5 to 1%.
So are they just canning Class A foam on? Why bother?
From what I've read in the literature, it's obviously its main purpose is for Class B fires. It can also be used, if you're running short or if you've got the system set up, it can also back up for Class A. It's not as effective as Class A, like a dedicated Class A system. Yeah. But in a pinch, I mean, obviously on our trucks too, the Class B is carried on board in a 200-litre tank, so we have a vastly greater supply ready to go.
So if you went to like a truck fire and it was pissing out fuel or something, you'd just use Class B, obviously, because it can cover both aspects. Exactly,
yeah, because if it's leaking its fuel and everything like that, it covers both bases there. So that's pretty much why. I think the other reason, from what I've read with going to this particular brand of foam, it's a non-fluorocarbon based foam, which means it's better for the environment, so it breaks down and doesn't cause problems for plants and wildlife. So it is a lot more environmental. It's not good for the environment by any stretch, but it's a lot better than the older. So that's why they've basically switched over. Okay. Now, what I'll do now is talk a bit about the actual foam gear that we use to employ the foam at jobs and incidents. As I mentioned before, there is, for the Class B, the Class A one, an onboard 50-litre tank, which is delivered through an inline proportioner of the digital one. So it's basically select the percentage that you want, hit a button, and out it comes. We'll cover that in a bit more detail when we go outside and have a play on the truck. What I would like to talk a bit about now though is the actual adductor itself. Now the adductors operate using what's called the Venturi principle. So it has a pickup tube which we will hook into the truck with. It then comes into the bottom of the adductor, and it's basically a 70mm connection, so it'll hook to the delivery on the back of the truck, and it siphons, so it goes down to a shallow centre and then opens back up to a wide end. And the reason it does that is because when water is flowing through a tube, when it gets squeezed down, it increases the rate at which, the speed at which it's travelling through. And when that speed picks up, it creates a low pressure system. So as it squeezes through the pinch point, the actual water increases its flow rate, and then when it hits it expands back out to its normal size, it slows down again. Now in that low pressure zone behind where it's expanded back out, you can see on the diagram sort of this pinch point here. So it comes from a large point, gets pinched down, speed will increase, and in this area here it creates a low pressure zone. And what that does is it allows gravity to push down on the container, and basically it will then suck up the mixture if you're using a pickup tube. So that's how basically in principle the adductor works. It does have a valve on it where you can select a number of different settings for the percentage of flow and mixture. But there are a couple of key points in using the adductors. First one is the pump has to be operating at 1400 kPa, so it's fairly high pressure. Reason being, you've got to get that flow rate pushing through that choke point on the adductor. It creates enough of a low pressure there for it to pick up the actual mixture. Now the actual flow settings on the branch, if you're using a 38mm branch, it's going to be 230 litres a minute, and if you're using the 70mm branch, it'll be 475. So it's pretty important to get that, because if you dial it down on the branch, if it's too low, it's going to put back pressure into the adductor, which will reduce the effectiveness of it, and it won't be able to pick up the foam concentrate as well. Obviously opening the branch up even more, it doesn't really do anything for you, so there's no need to. So basically just leave it at the settings possible. Same goes for the pressure. There's no point increasing the kPa at the pump. Any increase in pressure is not going to improve performance. Lower pressure will decrease performance. So, when using the adductor, a maximum of 3 lengths of hose can be connected after the adductor. So that'll give you basically a 90-metre separation from wherever you are located with the adductor to wherever the fire is. Optimally, you'll keep it to about 2 lengths. If you need to go any further than that, what you'll have to do is probably go remote with the adductor and maybe run a couple of lines of hose, put the adductor on a length of hose with it'll have to be a drum of foam then, and pick it up that way, and then another 3 lengths. But hopefully you can get the truck or the appliance situated.
So do they have to factor in pressure loss of the adductor?
You will, yeah. Well, within 3 lengths, the pressure loss at 1400 kPa is really, it's fine. You may be able to, you can notch it up a little bit if you're worried about it, because it won't affect performance, but you got to make sure you've got the minimum there.
You pretty much tell the branch anyway if you're not getting foam.
Yeah. Yeah, then the branchman will be able to relay back to the motor driver what's happening if they're far enough away or if they're not within visual range of each other. Another point which doesn't get raised very often is to, especially when you're using the pickup tube, minimise the branch height above the actual adductor. So when I say that, if you're up a flight of stairs or something like that, because that branch is so much higher than the adductor, based on the Venturi principle and all that sort of stuff, it will affect its ability to pick up the actual foam out of the drum. So where possible, try and minimise the branch height above the actual adductor itself. Now, when we do use the foam, we do have aeration tubes that go on our Acron nozzles. It's important that we use it on the Acron branches rather than on the new Protex, as they don't fit. And those aeration tubes just help to put the final touches on the foam. So it gets mixed as it goes through the adductor and then obviously down through the hose, but it gets that final aeration to produce a better quality foam if we use the aeration nozzles at the end there. So that's basically...
Got to be on jet too.
What's that?
Got to be on jet too.
Yes, yeah, that's right. You don't want it on wide spray. You can, there is a little bit of flexibility there. You don't need it on a dead set, solid jet stream. You can help break it up a little bit, but as you know, then if you ever caught out and you're on a fog straight away, if you've got the aeration nozzle on there, it will come back and squeeze you in the face. So, yeah, good point. Alright, okay, what we'll do now, I'll just talk about for Class Bs, a couple of techniques that need to be used when actually applying it to the fire. We don't want to attack the fuel or the fire if it's not on fire. If we're applying it directly onto the fuel source, we don't want to attack it directly. There's a couple of techniques involved. I've got these handouts here. These are from the recommended practices on the different styles that we should be using. What?
Lopping,
So they've added anything new on
laying down.
Yes, they've gotten a bit more fancy.
Yeah,
So seeing as we're getting caps appliances, and I think people have started to appreciate the value of foam, they've put a bit more.
There's
Yeah, bump and roll,
footprinting.
and
Footprinting's gone.
it's all changed. Okay,
Oh,
so
banking now.
what you can see from the handout there, one of the techniques, well, basically all of the techniques, you don't want to be attacking the source directly. So you don't want to be pushing it. You don't want to be using any pressure to disperse the fuel and the liquid source.
Tearing the blanket open.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So when you first start the foam system up, foam's not going to be instantly coming out of the branch. So especially with class B foams, and depending on the length of the hoses there, you're going to have to be discharging a lot of water before you actually start coming across to attacking the fire itself. So you open the branch up, let all that water go, and then once you've got a good build up or a good stream, a good flow of foam coming out of the branch, that's when you can direct your attention then to actually attacking the fuel or the fire. And it's always critical that it always talks about using a gentle application, so you don't disperse the fuel any more than it needs to. First technique is called lobbing. So basically you want to position yourself far enough away but not so close that you're basically shooting the foam to the front edge of the fuel source, and you basically want it to occur so it's lost all of its forward momentum, so it's no longer sort of got any sort of oomph behind it as going forward, and you don't want it sort of raised too high and that it's getting momentum coming down. So you just want it to be sort of where it's just at it's just dying at the end of the stream. And that you just keep doing that, it'll build up and then spread itself out over the fuel source. Second one is called rain down. So that's where you basically, if you can get close enough, you aim the branch up, it will then disperse and break down like rain droplets. That's a new technique, we haven't really done that one in the past. So it's sort of gentle enough in that it breaks up into small enough particles to sort of fall on top of the actual fuel source. Third one is the old bump and roll. We've done that one before. It's basically shooting the foam in front of the actual fuel source. So you'll build up a supply of foam which will churn itself up and then push itself. Once enough of a build up of the foam gets there, it will start to push out over the fuel source. Okay. Fourth one, it's called banking. So that's basically where we shoot the foam off a wall or something that's adjoining or sitting next to the fuel source. So it'll hit the wall, run down, and then start to spread out over the fuel source that way. There is a diagram there of fireys, mainly the airport fireys banking it off the fuselage of an aircraft, so it'll dribble down and then underneath any fire that's underneath the aircraft. Fifth one will be deflection over a bund or a wall. We can probably demonstrate that in the backyard pretty well. We've got a nice little bund out there. So it's basically shooting it along the ground to a little rise or a brick wall or gutter, as it hits the gutter, it'll shoot up and over, which will take all of the momentum out of the branch and any of the pressure out, and it'll give it a nice gentle flow on the fuel source. So essentially what they're talking about doing, if you don't want to be blasting the liquid fuel source with pressure, which will just disperse it and push it further away, nice gentle application, get a nice blanket, nice coverage, it'll keep it all in place. One other one that they have, which is not on that diagram, is for actual containers, so like fuel storage bins and things like that. If there is a fire in those ones, basically you shoot, it's another form of banking essentially. You shoot the foam onto one edge of the tank, it'll hit the edge, run down, and eventually it'll spread out and over the top of the actual tank itself. So there are a few different techniques there. We'll try a couple out the backyard. Might not get through all of them. We want to try and limit how much sort of foam we use, but it'll be good to see a couple of them. Alright, so that was a short, simple video from Fire Rescue about Class B and Class A, well, Class B foam anyway, the 3x6. So what we'll do now is we'll go put the truck out in the backyard, we'll get it to work. Mainly concentrating on using the adductors, seeing as they're a bit of extra equipment. Class A, we've all had a pretty good go at using Class A before. It's just a matter of hitting a button, dialing in a percentage, and bang, off it goes. So mainly want to look at using adductors where there is a bit of extra equipment involved, because we don't use them very often. So hopefully you can remember all of that. Just the key points with the adductors again, it's at 1400 kPa pressure, 230 litres a minute for the 38mm branch, or 475 for the 70. The recommended practices does say 3 lengths after the adductor, but on the video it mentioned 2. I think it does operate most effectively at around 2 lengths. So obviously if you can minimise the number of lengths of hose, the better. And then the basic percentages. So yeah, so we'll go get set up and we'll come back and
good job.
Questions. Cool. Alright, okay, for the drill, I'm just going to do a quick talk over about the equipment that we've actually got on the appliance here. As I mentioned before, being a Varley, one of the older type of vehicles that we have 2 systems on board, obviously the Class A and the Class B system. I'll start with the Class A. The Class A tank is basically here, so we don't have to carry drums like some of the new Scanias will actually carry a container with the foam in it. Ours is already built in board. And basically the way that's initiated is through this inline proportioning system here. So basically you use the selection buttons here until you get to your percentages and dial it up. So as we were talking about before, based on whatever proportion you need, typically always start at 0.5, hit on, and obviously the pump will be running. You select on this button here whether or not you want it to come out of the first aid reel up here. So typically for car fires, when we're attacking the fire, we'll set it up for the first aid reel, hit the on button, and you'll have foam coming out. If it's a little more substantial, the Class A foam delivery is out of this 70 here. Again, if you wanted to use a 70, you could, or again you could just use a typical reducer and run a line of 38 off of it.
You'd demolish that, wouldn't you?
You would smash that tank pretty quickly.
200 litres is only lasting 14 minutes.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be relying on it for anything.
That's lasting 7 minutes.
But you're talking about a lower percentage as well.
Yeah,
You're talking about like 0.5 rather than 3 or 6.
Exactly.
So how long would it last?
Oh.
Well, 7 minutes.
Yeah, you'd have to do the calculations. Probably similar.
So it's 6 times the percentage. You're looking at like 0.5 compared to a 3. That's 6 times.
Don't have to sit down.
You have to do some maths.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, I'm already struggling. So, in terms of Class A, we do use that on car fires and whatnot, so everyone's pretty well versed in that. As I mentioned, digital proportioning, pretty straightforward, hit the on button, and then off it goes. Now what we're concentrating on today is the use of the adductors for the Class B system. Now on board in the tank there is a 200 litre foam supply. You can see on the gauge here it's showing 85% full. we have had problems in the past with it overflowing and making a mess, so we'll just leave it at around that rate. Now what we use is these here is called an inductor. Every appliance carries 2 sets. So this is the 70 to 70. So as I was talking about inside before, it works on the Venturi principle. 70 gets choked down into a narrow gap. So as the water is flowing through, it creates a low pressure, which then allows the foam concentrate to be sucked up into this tube, at which point you can dial in what percentage that you want. So you have 6, 3, 1.5% down to a quarter, and then you can use either a 70 off of that one or a 38.
So what are we using as the marker to indicate what we're actually dialing up there?
So based on this one, there's a little arrow.
Yep, okay.
Dial there.
Yep.
Same goes, this one's a bit of an old school one with a copper. It's a copper setting on it. So this one actually has a copper notch on the top here, an arrow. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 6, I believe, up here. So basically we just leave it on the 3 setting.
Yep.
Now, so this one here is obviously considered just a regular regular delivery. We've got a 38 already hooked up to it. Now because we'll be using this foam supplied from the actual tank, there is a delivery under here for Class B, which is the foam delivery. It's got the Solberg sticker on it. So as I mentioned in the video, it has been switched over to the new foam supply. So we just hook that on, that way we don't have to rely on using one of these here, which is an actual pickup tube itself. So if we ran out of our supply on board, we could have other appliances rock up with additional supplies, and then we could pour it into a drum, connect this to this line here, and then we're able to basically draft it out of the supply containers that it comes in. As I mentioned before, these are what's called the aeration nozzle. So this one here is for a 70. Important that we use it on the Acron branches, not the new Protex, because there's a slight difference in diameter and they won't fit on the new Protex. So we already have one set up on the end of our 38 over here, so that's ready to go. So essentially the process will be, the pump will be in pump gear, set up, ready to go. You'll have all of this connected. You'll have your dial set to the right percentage proportion that you want to have it set to. You'll have the branch open. You want to try and avoid any back pressure coming through the system, so you want the branch open. You will then open the delivery, and at which point you'll then close the recirc valve. You don't want to leave it open because you can end up with foam mixture going into the tank, in which case you'll be constantly spewing foam for a while. You'll have to flush it a couple of times. So once you've got that closed, then you can dial the pressure up gradually up to the 1400 kPa. Branch man will be shooting the water off to the side. So in this case here, it'll go off to the garden or down the drain while it's nice clean water. Then once the foam's starting to be produced and you're happy with the quality of it, then we'll start using one of those techniques we mentioned inside. So whether you use the rain down, the bump and roll, or just lofting it onto the actual fuel source. We'll go from there. Okay, so what we'll do now, we'll cut, get you guys to set it up, and we'll get some foam coming out. Okay. Dan's going to be our motor driver, Shane will be our branch man. They're going to set it up for us. Let's see how they go.
Oh, it's gone over the fence. Hey, Shane, down.
Down.
There's a car coming out of the garage.
Must have had a bit of a blockage or something all of a sudden. It just went just
Pull down.
Okay, so that's basically a deflection technique. So where it hits the gutter, it bounces up over. Those nice light fluffy foam. So what's that percentage set to? 3%.
3.
So if we were to go up to 6%, it'll be even fluffier and richer mix again.
cut it, cut the foam.
Alright, so yeah, well done boys. Good demonstration of how to use the adductors and the foam gear. Covered a good bit of information today. Any questions you guys have, or anything raised you have any questions about? Puzzled look means I've done my job.
No, yeah, I'm just trying to think. You have to explain some things we didn't know. So.
Alright, thanks for putting up with me with a cold and mumbling and stumbling like a bit of a fool on this one. So basically now, yeah, it's just a matter of cleaning up the equipment as per the Sims, flushing warm water and stuff through it, making sure the ball valve and everything works properly, and packing away. So thanks again for your attention guys. Third and final training drill over. Send your fires.
Well done. Thanks, mate.
Assuming he's got a pass.